The African dawn was soft and golden, brushing the savannah with warmth. But somewhere within this beautiful landscape, a quiet sadness lived, and it began with a young elephant calf named Sifu. His wide amber eyes carried questions he could not speak, and his small trembling frame told a story no one had witnessed. Sifu had been found wandering alone at the edge of a watering hole. His footprints zigzagged across the mud, showing confusion, fear, and exhaustion. Rangers from the wildlife rescue team noticed him first. Tiny, dehydrated, and standing completely still as if waiting for a familiar face that would never return. The rescue team approached slowly, respecting his fear, knowing that every orphaned elephant arrives with an invisible, emotional wound. Elephants rely deeply on their families for guidance and protection. Losing that connection is not just a physical loss, it is an emotional one. But this story is not about loss. This is the story of rebirth, healing, and a journey back home. Sifu's first night at the rehabilitation center was filled with uncertainty. Surrounded by new sounds, human whispers, rustling leaves, distant calls of other rescued elephants, he stood silently unsure of who to trust. But hope began to form from the moment a gentle caretaker named Amara stepped closer and whispered softly, "You're safe now." For the first time since being alone, Sifu lowered his head and slowly reached out with his tiny trunk, a gesture that said, "I'm scared, but I want to believe you, Mew." From that moment on, the center wasn't just a shelter. It became his new family. Each day brought small but important steps. Amara and the other caretakers fed him warm milk specially formulated for elephant calves. They monitored his sleep, helped him walk, and kept him close to a small group of elephants who had also lost their families. These elephants, known as the Comfort Group, played a powerful role. Elephants understand grief, and they often comfort younger ones simply by standing beside them. Sifu slowly began to respond. He learned to follow the other elephants. He learned to trust the keepers who protected him. He learned that even after heartbreak, life can grow again. But Sifu's healing wasn't just physical. The real transformation started when he met Luna, a slightly older rescued elephant who had once walked the same lonely path. She approached him gently one morning, wrapping her trunk lightly around his in a gesture of friendship. That moment changed everything. For the first time, Sifu felt like he belonged. The center's mission was not only to protect orphans, but to prepare them for the wild, to give them the strength, confidence, and knowledge they would need once they returned to the vast savannah. Sifu's new life had begun, and no one knew just how far his journey would go. As weeks passed, Sifu's fear began melting away like morning mist. He started gaining weight, sleeping peacefully, and exploring his surroundings. But this wasn't just a rescue center. It was a training ground designed to teach elephants everything their families would have taught them in the wild. Every sunrise, Sifu joined a group of young elephants for a forest school. Rangers guided them through safe, controlled regions of the wilderness, allowing them to experience real terrain, real trees, and real challenges. These walks strengthened their muscles and sharpened their instincts. Sifu learned how to identify edible plants, how to dig for water during dry weeks, and how to communicate through soft rumbles. Elephants speak with vibrations that travel through the ground, and Sifu slowly discovered the hidden language of his kind. Luna played the role of an older sister, V's patient, always encouraging. When Sifu hesitated to cross a shallow stream, Luna splashed water at him playfully until he stepped forward. When he struggled to break branches with his trunk, she demonstrated by twisting a branch effortlessly. Little by little, Sifu understood. He was not alone anymore. He was growing stronger. Caretakers never treated the elephants as pets. Instead, they acted as guardians, guiding them toward independence. Humans would one day step back, but the elephants would remain together, forming bonds that could last a lifetime. The center also protected them from outside dangers. The world beyond the fences was beautiful, but unpredictable. Rangers regularly scanned the horizon to ensure no threats came near the young herd. Their goal was simple and pure: prepare these elephants to return home, not into fear, but into a future they could survive with confidence. Months turned into a year. Sifu was no longer the small, trembling calf he once was. His ears had grown broad and strong, and his once shaky steps transformed into steady, confident stride. His trunk, once weak, now lifted logs, tossed dust over his back, and occasionally stole fruit from the caretaker's basket when no one was watching. Sifu's progress inspired the entire team, but the most beautiful moment came during a long walk when the young herd reached a hill overlooking miles of untouched savanna. The grass danced in the wind. Birds traced circles in the sky. A distant river glowed like silver. Sifu stood at the edge, his big ears flapping gently, his eyes filled with wonder. This wide, free world was where he was meant to be. The team realized something important. Sifu and his herd were almost ready. The final phase of rehabilitation began, one that focuses on independence. Humans reduced contact. Elephants were encouraged to solve problems on their own. Their social bonds grew even stronger because soon the herd would depend on each other completely. Sifu, once the frightened orphan, was now a leader among the young elephants. He cared for the smallest calves, helped guide them along trails, and stood confidently during storms. His transformation felt like a miracle. But really, it was the result of kindness, patience, and the quiet determination of a young heart ready to heal. Sifu wasn't just surviving anymore. He was preparing to return home. The sun rose gently on the day that would change everything. The rehabilitation team stood near the large release gate, excitement and emotion mixing in the air. Beyond the gate lay a protected wilderness area, vast, rich, and safe. It was the perfect place for the young herd to begin their new life. Sifu walked at the front with Luna beside him. Both stood taller now, carrying wisdom from their journey. The other elephants gathered around them, rumbling softly in anticipation. They were not being released alone. They were being released together. A new family forged through shared struggle and shared healing. When the gate opened, a warm breeze swept across the herd. Freedom, space, home. But the elephants did not rush. They stepped forward slowly, tasting the air, listening to the distant calls of wild elephants, feeling the soft ground beneath their feet. Sifu paused. He looked back one last time at the caretakers who had saved him. Amara, the one who whispered to him on the first night, smiled with tears in her eyes. She knew he wouldn't come close now. That distance meant he was ready. Sifu lifted his trunk high, sending a deep, grateful rumble through the air. And then he walked into the wild. The young herd followed, spreading across the open space, exploring trees, grazing softly, and blending into the natural rhythm of the land. Rangers monitored them from a respectful distance, ensuring they stayed safe during their first weeks of freedom. Every day brought new experiences, navigating new terrains, meeting distant elephant families, finding natural food sources, learning which paths led to water. Sifu adapted beautifully. His forest training had prepared him well. He remembered how to dig for moisture in dry soil, how to sense water through vibrations, and how to comfort younger elephants with gentle gestures. Just like Luna once comforted him. The herd formed a real family unit. A bond unbreakable, a future sustainable. Months later, something remarkable happened. Sifu led his herd to a new grazing area, where distant rumbles echoed across the plains. A wild elephant group stood nearby. Slowly, the young herd approached, cautious but hopeful. Elephants communicate deeply, and within minutes, their rumbles blended in harmony. Acceptance, unity, belonging. Sifu had come full circle. He had gone from an orphan calf standing alone in fear to a leader who now stood proudly with his family, to a symbol of what compassion and dedication can achieve. His journey reminds us of something powerful. Every rescued animal carries a story of hope. Every act of kindness can rebuild a life. Every life saved shapes the future of our planet. The wilderness did not just receive Sifu back. It welcomed him home. His footsteps now echo across open grasslands, not as a lost calf, but as a survivor, a warrior, and a reminder that when humans choose compassion, nature heals. And so Sifu's journey continues, in the wild, under endless skies, surrounded by the family he found and the freedom he earned. His story is not just the journey of one elephant, it is the journey of hope.